So you're thinking about making a move to the Portland, Oregon and surrounding areas? In this video, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of Portland in 2024. It's a great city to live in with a ton of positives, but it has some cons as well. And in this video, we will share with you the inside scoop, and we're getting after it right now. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there absolutely is to know about Portland, Oregon, then click the subscribe button below and tap the notification bell so that you can be the first to know about the current market in Portland, Oregon. My name's Ann Stewart. This is Erica Hagfirst, and we get calls, emails, and text messages every week from people looking to make a move to the Portland, Oregon area, and we absolutely love it. Whether you're moving in 9 days or in 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. All of our information is in the description below so we can help you make a smooth move to Portland, Oregon. We're going to go ahead and get started with the pros of living in Portland. But if you stick around to the end, we will be covering the cons. Now, the first pro that we want to discuss is the beauty of Portland. It is second to none. I mean, that's the number one thing people say when they come into Portland, almost in every season, is, wow, it is so beautiful here. It's lush, and the landscaping and the backdrop of Mount Hood. I mean, really can't beat it.
We have just about everything here. I mean, we have the mountains, we have the ocean, and we've got valleys and, you know, gorgeous terrain in between. So there's a little something for everyone, which makes it just about perfect.
And we have all 4 seasons. So, you know, a lot of states only have a couple of seasons. We literally have fall, spring, winter, summer. Erica, what is your favorite?
Fall is by far my favorite, I know. I mean, it's just a kind of a perfect merriment of everything. You get the changing colors with the trees, you have crisp days, you still have the sun, you have longer days still. I mean, it's absolutely perfect in my humble opinion.
You know, fall really is extraordinary, and I think because we just are coming out of fall and it's just so beautiful outside with the leaf color changing. You know, it's one of those where it feels like something on the East Coast, you know, like the East Coast often gets, you know, all the glory for their fall, but we really have a pretty spectacular moment here in the Pacific Northwest as well. The other favorite season I love is summer, or that transition from spring to summer, because while we do get a lot of wetness, which we will talk about, that does bring the beauty of the spring and the flowers and everything starts popping, and that transition is like something I look forward to every single year. And then by the summer, when it's temperate, it's like everything's blooming and looking so magical. People come into Portland sometimes during the summer, and we always try to warn them, like, yes, it looks amazing outside. It's perfect temperature, perfect weather. Everything's glorious. But you do have to talk about the weather, which we'll get to.
We will.
But yeah, the summer really is spectacular here, and we don't get too hot, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. Spring to summer transition is lovely in the sense that we have so many cherry blossoms here in the state, and we're hard to beat in the spring. I mean, it's epically gorgeous in our summer days and not getting too hot. So I would definitely say having all 4 seasons is a major positive to, you know, living in Portland.
Agreed.
Another pro of living in Portland is our plethora of outdoor activities. So we have just about everything. You can, you know, do water sports, you can do mountain sports, we've got biking, running, equestrian sports, that's my favorite. But our varied terrain really leads into that, especially with our waterways. You know, you've got windsurfing, kite surfing, all that down in the gorge, and you like to get up to the mountains, don't you, in the winter?
So I'm a bit of a ski bum, so during the winter months when it is colder, darker, and rainier here in Portland, and that's kind of tough for people, which we will talk about more. I head up to the mountain because Mount Hood is only an hour and a half away, and I oftentimes will just spend my days up there, and the powder's good, and it's so close. I mean, that's the other thing about this, you know, being able to be so close to some of these things like the mountain or the coast, is you can do those outdoor activities, you know, in a day if you want to. You don't have to drive or like stay overnight somewhere if you don't want to. But yeah, there is, you know, every season we have seems to bring out different activities that people like to enjoy. And even though it rains a lot here, I mean, people still get out and they go running and golfing. I mean, you know, it's like, at least it's temperate. It's not so, you know, freezing with snow pack or whatever down here in Portland, because we don't really get a lot of snow.
No, the weather is actually amazing because I'm a runner. I love to get outside, run year round, and you can go out even when the small occasions when we do have snow, It's easy enough to go out and still hit the trails or hit the roads. That's the other thing, is we have a vast trail system, even here in like downtown Portland. We've got the Wildwood Trail and Leif Erikson, which, you know, is over 100 miles of trail running, pleasure, hiking, whatever you want to do, whatever pace you're moving at. But it really just, you know, welcomes everybody. And, you know, then obviously you've got surfing out at the ocean. I know most people are thinking, you know, you don't surf in the Pacific up in the Northwest, but we do. And then obviously, like I mentioned before, you've got the gorge, which is, you know, great. There's the rivers, you know, we got a lot of like paddle boarding, canoeing, kayaking, I mean, the whole 9 yards. And we've got locations all over the place to do that, which is really part of what makes our city so special. You know, it's also a great opportunity for people who want to be outside with their dogs. Very dog-friendly city, so if you're thinking of bringing, you know, the family pet with you, great place to do so.
Yeah, and, you know, a lot of our colleagues that are in other states where it gets like 100+ degrees, they have to stay inside. They can't do any activities outside unless they get up really super early. Whereas here in Portland, even though if it's raining or cold, you just put on some jackets and some attire and you're good to go. So, I mean, nice. It is nice really, that you can still get out and do stuff, and it's not. You just have to bundle up, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, really, this is you know, outdoor activities are basically just, you know, make sure that you dress appropriately and you can go out and do whatever you want to do. So we're pretty lucky that way.
A big pro right here in Portland that we're known for is our food scene. Do you like to eat? A lot of people do. A lot of people actually come here as a tourist just to check out our food scene. Big thing that we have going on is food carts.
Oh, huge.
They're all over Portland. In fact, I was driving up to the mountain about a month ago and I saw a big new food cart, and I was super excited about it because when you get off the mountain or you're heading up early in the morning, it's nice to get some good grub heading up to the mountain before you go on the slopes or coming off the slopes. But they pop up everywhere. In fact, I was at one just in Beverage, and there's a huge one at the Round, and they're really good. Like these are not food carts you have to worry about. They're really high quality food. And one thing Portland's really known for is our local ownership of restaurants and food carts. We don't have a ton of franchise restaurants. We do have them, but they're just not. They're few and far between, and people here that would prefer to eat at a locally owned establishment. We actually have a lot of top chefs that have opened up restaurants here in Portland. It's just known for its cuisine here, the diversity in food. A lot of times when Eric and I are meeting clients around town, we kind of strategically plot where we're going to stop to grab something to eat, because certain parts of town are known for its food. You know, different restaurants and things that you can't get maybe on the west side or the east side, you know, you kind of plot those out. And we have bakeries and, I mean, Pips Donuts. I mean, there's just...
We have a lot of amazing, like, one-off little both food carts and restaurants, and it really is part of what makes our city so cool, is that you've got this kind of vast array of places that you can go depending on what you're hungry for. And it's all amazing. You know, we have like little pop-ups. Actually, they're not even pop-ups. They're food cart stations where they basically park their carts and you can just go and eat from an array of different places, and they're all extraordinary. A lot of times what they're doing now too is setting up an array of food carts and then popping a bar in as well. So you can go get your beverages and have really amazing food. So we really cater to that. We like our local owners. And so it really has benefited the consumer because we get a great variety of food that's all really high quality. Okay, another pro of living in the great city of Portland, Oregon is our beverage scene. So kind of to piggyback on the food scene, our beverages are vast and amazing. So obviously, I think most people know that we're known for our coffee. We are coffee city through and through. We've got a lot of great local coffee roasters and a coffee shop on just about every corner with two in between.
And just, you know, we're living in a city where it's kind of cold and rainy a lot, so a lot of people have kind of, it's a coffee addiction here.
To say the least, I think we both had a cup of coffee before we started this. What else we have are amazing wineries. So we are just a stone's throw from, wine country here in Portland. And there are hundreds, and that is not an understatement, but we have hundreds of amazing wineries down there. So something for everybody. We're obviously known for our Pinot Noirs, but we have a lot of really amazing winemakers who are kind of starting to venture out and see what else they can make here. So it's a really special experience to go down into wine country. And then the other really cool thing is we're starting to get into distilleries. So we have a lot of great local distilleries. There's Trail, there's Stein, Rose City. aviation gin. I mean, we've got just about something for everybody. And then we also have a lot of local breweries. I mean, if the beer scene is yours, I mean, that's also, you know, right there hand in hand with our wine country. So, Anne, what's your favorite?
I really love wine country. We have like world-class wineries, like within 15, 20 minutes of this.
Domaine Serene and Argyle.
It's actually another great activity. Even if you're not a huge wine person, like just going out to the beauty of wine country and spending an afternoon with friends or somebody, it really is something special because these wineries are beautiful. They've got a lot of localism, a lot of locally owned. The views out there are spectacular, and they do have a wide variety of wineries. It's
huge.
Wines. It's not just Pinot Noir. It's, you know, sparkling wines are becoming a big thing out there. There's
my absolute
whites
favorite.
I know, same. You know, and of course out there also is distilleries popping up, and there's a lot of restaurants out there that are super. We're probably gonna do a separate video on it because it's that cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a definite beverage scene here that really encompasses everything from coffee to booze to wine and beer. So can't go wrong.
Beverages for everybody.
That's right.
Yes.
And the last pro of living in Portland is jobs. We have a lot of opportunity here for people, and that's actually why a lot of our buyers relocate. In fact, I would say right around 40% of our buyers are relocating from out of state because they're getting work here in the Portland metro area. So when people are like, well, why do people move to Portland? It's because we actually offer a lot of opportunities in different industries. One of the biggest industries we have here is the tech industry.
Huge.
We actually call it the Silicon Forest. Intel is probably the largest employer tech-wise out here. We've got Textronics. We have other industries like Boeing and Daimler. I mean, we could go on and on about the different industries, but needless to say, there's a lot of jobs here, and there's a lot of well-paying jobs here. So it attracts a lot of people from all over. And if you actually, you know, go around, you're going to meet a lot of people who are not originally from Portland. My neighborhood in particular is, you know, people are not from Portland. It's really common people relocate here to get a job at Nike or Intel or any one of these other places. So pretty common to see a lot of people moving here for work.
It's almost the joke that there's very few people who are native to Portland, and yet, you know, we obviously have this lovely city of transients, and it's a fantastic blend of a whole bunch of people from, you know, all over the place. And it really kind of also what makes our city super cool is that you've got these people from everywhere. You know, it's you don't have this like real like everybody's a native Portland Oregoner. It's actually exactly the opposite. So really great to have all these people coming through, and you know, for all the people who relocate here, they're super excited because they're getting a really cool city to live in.
Yeah.
With all these great pros.
Yep.
So, yeah. Okay, so if you're still here, we're going to start talking about maybe the not so great things about living in Portland, as we like to call them, the cons. The first one would probably be, by admittedly most people, the rain and the gray days. So if we looked outside right now, it would be exactly what we're talking about. It is rainy, it's a little windy, and it's gray. So we had a fog this morning, and it's just a very heavy feeling. And we do get this for a while we do have all four seasons. I would definitely say that winter kind of hangs around for a little longer than it's welcome. And we have this rain. So, you know, I think people kind of sometimes joke about like having SAD, which is, you know, seasonal affective disorder, because it does start to wear on you for a while. But that being said, we can still get out in the rain. We still, you know, people still go running, they still walk their dogs, they go hiking.
I'll be honest with you, I'm a native to Portland, so I'm effectively used to this kind of weather, but it does, after a while of just day after day of rain or drizzle or the gray low cloud cover, it can get to you. And I always encourage people, like, find activities. Like, that's why I go to the mountains and ski, because I know when it's pouring down here, it's usually, you know, great up at the mountain. But it can be really difficult on some people's mental health because it's like darker outside all day. Like it can feel like it's, you know, 4 o'clock in the afternoon when it's noon. And it can be hard. So, you know, if you're coming from a state where you've had a lot of sunshine, just prepare yourself. I would recommend you make a trip out here just to see what it's like, to make sure you're okay with it. I always say, like, during the holidays, like November, December, everyone's fine with it because we want it to be colder. We want it to feel kind of, you know, like this
holiday-ish.
Warm, like, you know, holiday-ish, yeah. But right in January, when the holidays are over, it can start to really affect people. And I would say January through about March is the hardest time for that dark, cold, rainy. Like, there's all the leaves have fallen off the tree at this point. It's dark, it's rainy and all that. So you're just craving springtime where you get, days of nice weather mixed with rain where you can kind of, get out of that day after day dark and rainy. So it is a thing. It's definitely something for somebody to consider because it can really affect you. And I've seen people live here for a couple years and then they're like, I just can't handle it. So
it really is something you should definitely visit during the winter, during a time when it's going to be, the weather forecast is not looking amazing. Because Anne's right, it is a whole thing. And I'm a native Northwesterner, so I grew up in Washington, very similar climate. However, even that being said, after several years, it does wear on you. And you have to, we get a lot of people taking vacations in the January, February timeframe to kind of refresh themselves.
That's the goal, is have a plan to maybe break it up and go out of state.
You got to find
Arizona
some
is like a quick, 2.5 3 hour flight down, or wherever you choose to go, just to get a little sun in there if you need it.
But it is no joke. Definitely be prepared for our rain. We have some years that are better than others, but we have a lot of years where you're consistently looking at several months of gray, overcast, rain. And the other thing to think about, we're heading into winter right now, and in the wintertime, you're getting dark at about 4:30. So just plan for that. Know that it's going to be a thing.
Yeah. Another con of living in Portland is the traffic. So way back decades ago, we did not plan correctly for the amount of growth that we were going to have. They put a lot into public transportation, thinking that the population would use it. Over time, they realized people aren't using that as much. They're still on the freeways with their own cars. And there is not a lot of areas to expand freeways in town. They're doing it the best they can, but traffic is a thing. In fact, probably when I got started in real estate over 20 years ago, I could drive across town in 15 minutes. Nowadays, you have to plan for a solid hour, and it depends on the time of day. So we always tell people, if you're gonna go from the east side to the west side or vice versa, don't go past 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
No.
I mean, you're probably going to face traffic even before that, but there's another level of traffic that you're going to experience if you're crossing town after 2 o'clock. Obviously, people coming and going work hours, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then in the early morning. And of course, wet and cold and rainy doesn't, help the situation at all. And so it's just one of those things you have to be really mindful of. And so commute times are a big thing. When people move to Portland, we always talk about, look, I know it doesn't seem like the city you want to live in is all that far away from the place you're working or you're going to be commuting mostly to, but it can really matter. And so you really need to be strategic about your planning and moving and living in Portland.
Part of that, so we're obviously a city divided by a river. And that it really comes into play with our traffic because, we only have so many waterways or bridges to cross that waterway. It also means that if you're thinking about moving to Portland, you want to think about what side of the river you're going to be primarily living on, what side is your job on, because it may be a 15-minute drive, but if you add in, like Ann said, during a commute time that you have to cross a river, it's going to be so much worse because there's just limited space. And part of that is they're trying to alleviate that with our city planning, but some of those things that may be going into that are tolls.
Toll roads.
And we currently don't have any, so we consider ourselves very lucky, but that is starting to become a conversation that's being had more often, especially if you're thinking of living in Portland or in Vancouver and you work in the opposite. If you're going to have to cross over that state line and the river, then they're definitely thinking, and they've been wanting to do it for a very long time. So it's quite possible that it could happen that we end up having a toll to do that. So you could be paying to go to work, every day.
The other thing to be aware of is there's a lot of changes in the freeway systems. They're doing a huge project along I-5 in the North Portland part area that is going to probably take the better part of a decade. But still, if you plan on moving to Portland and living in certain areas, it's important to know those things because it's definitely going to affect your traffic situation. And like Erica was saying, if toll roads start to come into play here in the next few years, that is something you may want to consider now before you make your move or you decide what area you want to live in, because it's going to factor into your commute maybe a lot more as we approach that change.
Yeah, I mean, I moved to the greater Portland area about 25 years ago, and at that time they were working on Highway 26, and guess what? They're still working on Highway 26. So, nothing, we all know infrastructure doesn't change very quickly, but our highways are constantly under construction. So picking an area that you're probably going to work in as well if you have to make a commute is usually a smart, or areas that you want to be doing activities in is probably the smartest bet.
And of course, you can talk to us about what that looks like. If you have any questions about commute times, and if you're making a move, what is that all about? We'd be happy to help.
Yep, that's what we're here for. Okay, so another not so great component of living in the Portland, Oregon area is our housing prices. We know those obviously very well. Our average is about $592, so just under $600,000. We are still the cheapest West Coast city, both for housing prices and rent. However, those have gone up dramatically in the last couple years and is really becoming a challenge for a lot of buyers. You know, the biggest issue that we have here is really just a supply issue. We haven't been building enough homes in, probably the last 20 years. And we have a lot of people who, obviously want to enjoy this amazing place that we have. So lack of housing is really just driving up those prices in a true, very simple supply-demand situation.
Also in rents, we've actually lost a ton of our rental pool from various reasons of what's happened in the laws here over the last several years. And so we have fewer rental properties than we've ever had, which is accentuating this problem because a lot of people need to rent or choose to rent. And it's astounding how much rents have gone up. So it's not necessarily the cheapest option, but it's an option that people have to choose. And so depending on where you're looking within the Portland area, whether you're choosing to buy or rent, the prices have really gone up considerably. And when we talk about the average price being $592, that's the average price, but in a lot of neighborhoods, it's a lot higher than that. But it's also about being strategic, and that's another thing we always talk to people about is like, if you have a price point that's not within that range or higher, there are areas surrounding Portland that a lot of people don't know about or aren't considering that are a good alternative. And that's one of the things we help people with all the time is, okay, so you want to be, in a certain price point, but when you look at that price point, it's a lot of fixers or things that you couldn't live in if, wouldn't make sense. Well, we have some options that we can talk to people about that make a lot of sense. So we always tell people don't get discouraged necessarily by your price point, because you just have to reframe and kind of set different expectations of, maybe where you're choosing to live based on your price point.
And we have a really microcentric market in the sense that, we said average is almost $600,000, but there's a lot of neighborhoods that are well below the average.
Yeah.
And you can have one pocket over here that's much more reasonable than 3 streets over. So that's part of what we do is help you find solutions to being here if you find some challenges.
Yeah. The final con of living in Portland is the cost of living. It's no surprise that a lot of the West Coast of the United States is very expensive to live in, and Portland is no exception. One of the things I was talking with Erica about this morning was the gas prices. Like, we are the number 7th most expensive city in the United States for gas prices. If you look down and up the West Coast, we're the highest. We're right along what Washington and California also experience, and we don't seem to get away from that. So, you can go to other parts of the country and they're a lot less expensive in gas. I recently visited some family out of town, and their grocery bills are so much less than ours. It seems like the grocery store is another place where it's just astounding what you're paying for things. And then utility costs. I mean, utilities
they're going up
are going up,
ridiculously.
and that's been really tough on a lot of people. Property taxes. So we're not as bad as some states, but we still have some pretty healthy property taxes for our area, and that's one thing you want to really consider if you're buying in the Portland metro area, is looking at those property taxes and how do those come into play with affordability.
Yeah, the property taxes too are very interesting in the sense that they vary a good bit. We have our formula, but they will still vary based on how often the house has been transferred ownership and upgrades that have been done to the home. So they can really affect the bottom line pretty dramatically. So that is definitely something you want to pay attention to. And then as Ann was saying, fuel prices here, we're generally about $1, give or take, more than the national average. So, that's something to think about. And then I think generally we're more expensive.
Yeah.
Groceries, because we like a lot of local stuff.
Now, we don't pay sales tax on things that we buy, which is
nice.
Pro, but the con is we pay state tax. So you have to,
you're going to pay it.
Yeah, you're paying it one way or the other. So a lot of people love that they can come across the river from Vancouver, Washington, and not have sales tax. that's great, but you will pay state tax. And that can be a con for a lot of people. You know, there's not too many states in the union that are like this, but we are one of them. So you're going to pay the piper one way or the other.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing is that technically we have a kicker. So if our state budget is in excess for a couple years, we're supposed to get that back.
In theory.
Supposed to. But, you know, that's also not a thing to bank on. But I would generally, you know, assume that you're going to be paying more for most things, especially if you're moving from someplace like the Midwest. It's going to be a more expensive lifestyle to be out here. So, yeah.
Those are some of the pros and cons of living in Portland, Oregon. If you're ready to make a move to Portland, we want to be your trusted service provider for all your real estate needs. Reach out to us, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video.